Lagoon has been around since 1886, truly an oasis in the middle of a coaster desert, located in Farmington, Utah, just north of Salt Lake City. You'd be happy with any park in this spot, but it just so happens that Lagoon is big and it's awesome. You're gonna pay $100 to get in, but for that, you get a well-run park with a great selection of coasters. I did a ranking 5 years ago, but I just got back from another visit. I got to ride the brand new coaster Primordial, and I think it's time for an update, so here we go. These are the coasters of Lagoon, from worst to best. Number 11. Bat, a Vekoma Hang and Bang, opened in 2005. I honestly don't think Lagoon has any bad coasters, except for this one. The Hang and Bang model is just a nickname. It's actually a suspended family coaster, but at this point it might as well be official. The ride itself isn't bad, a compact winding plot perfect for kids to experience their first coaster under the track. 49 feet tall, 26 miles an hour, 1,122 feet of track. But those restraints are so big and bulky, it's almost cartoonish how they fit around your head, and I actually bang my head on the turn out of the station. Your best bet is to press your neck against the side and try to enjoy the ride, stabilizing your head to keep it from bouncing side to side. Lagoon, if you're watching, if you want to keep this ride around long term, please get new trains, it would save the ride. Number 10. Puff the Little Fire Dragon, a Zero Tivoli, opened in 1985. This is by far the least thrilling coaster on the list, but it's not the worst. It's meant to be a coaster for the smallest kids, and they seem to love it, so it's doing its job. It's just an oval layout, rising up 11 feet, 16 miles an hour, only 198 feet of track. They send you around a few times to make the wait time worth it. This is the only coaster I skipped this time around. I rode it once with my daughter and see no need to ride it again. If you need the credit, swallow your pride and get it done, and move on to the rest of the great coasters in the park. Number 9. Wild Mouse, a Maurer Wild Mouse, opened in 1998. You've seen one mouse, you've pretty much seen them all. There may be tweaks here and there, they may come from different manufacturers, but you basically have your sharp turns to start and small drops to end. Last time I rode this in 2019, I thought it was an absolute riot. This time around, it wasn't as good. Maybe the trims weren't hitting as hard last time. This time, it seemed like around every turn, the car made some very stressed out noises. But we did have 3 full-grown adults in the car, so it may have been struggling a bit. Or maybe that's just how it sounds. The ride is perfectly fine. It's got good laterals, the drops are a lot of fun. It's just kinda generic and isn't anything special. Number 8. Bombora, an art engineering family coaster, opened in 2011. You've seen the Vekoma Junior coasters, those are everywhere, and this is just a luxury version of that. It uses spinning tires to rise up 45 feet, doesn't have a main drop but winds its way down 1,040 feet of track, maxing out at 31 miles an hour. The whole time, you have onboard audio that actually works, and seats that are insanely comfortable. It's not a long ride, it's not gonna punch you in the gut. It would be nice if they sent the trains around twice, but it's long enough so one lap is fine. Plus, they run 2 trains on this, which is awesome. It's a popular coaster and that keeps the line moving fast. Kudos to Lagoon for not going with a cookie cutter Vekoma, actually going for something more advanced. Number 7. Jetstar 2, a Schwarzkopf Jetstar 2, opened in 1976. There's a lot to love about this coaster, but also a lot you wish you could change. This is a very portable coaster, resting on wooden blocks, and you sit in 6-person sleds and that tears around the course. This is the one ride you have to ride with a partner. It's 2 to 1 seat and they don't want you sitting alone, probably just to wedge you into the seat. So you better know and like the person you're riding with or it's gonna be awkward. You really have to cram in there. It's very uncomfortable, but you put up with it for the ride experience. You start off with a spiral lift at 44 feet, diving down into turns that scrape the ground. Those turns are so tight and so fast. It's unlike anything I've seen on any other coaster. You feel like you're going face first into the track as it turns, and those positive G's press your head down. It is a wild ride, but it's janky and has weird seating. Just screaming old 70s Schwarzkopf, so if you're into classic coasters, you'll appreciate it. Number 6. Primordial, an art engineering dark ride coaster, opened in 2023. The newest coaster at the park, over 5 years in the making. It's amazing, this park has a ride as janky as Jetstar 2, and a ride as advanced as Primordial. If you've ridden Wonder Mountain's Guardian at Canada's Wonderland, this has the same manufacturer and is very similar. You start off going up an 85-foot lift, and most of the coaster section takes place right off the bat, twisting around the side of the fake mountain. And then you enter the mountain and the shooting dark ride section begins. I don't like the guns on this, they have very little mobility. It's hard to shoot targets that aren't right in front of you, so that part wasn't great. Then, the cars turn backwards and you get another great coaster section going in reverse. Go into another shooting section. And then there's one more awesome part, and I won't talk about that in case people want to be surprised. But that adds a lot to the ride and really completes the experience. Is this a coaster I wanted to wait another hour or two to re-ride? No. Would I have gotten another ride if the line was only 10 minutes? Actually, yes. I would've, because apparently there's more than one ending to the ride. So if you can get more than one ride, you should give it a shot. Anyway, it was cool to see, and I'll definitely get a ride each time I go. But at least for this day, it was a one and done. This is also one of the few rides at Lagoon that has actual theming. Going into a show building with an animatronic cat explaining the point behind the ride. This ride took forever to build and I'm sure costs a lot of money. And I hope they can keep all the effects working and it stays popular with the general public. It was far and away the longest line in the park all day, and not just because of bad capacity. Number 5. Spider, a Maurer spinning coaster, opened in 2003. There are so many of these coasters out there, and Spider has always had the reputation of being the best one. For my previous 2 rides, I would tend to agree. I've been on Undertow at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. I've been on Phoenix at Adventureland, Steel Dragon at Waldameer, even Laugh Track at Hershey Park. But Spider seems to spin more than the others. It stands 51 feet tall, has a main drop where it maxes out at 37 miles an hour, 1,391 feet of track. And this last time we rode it, we had 3 people, so the weight was thrown off from one side to the other, and it was amazing. We spun more than I thought possible on this ride. More than I noticed on my off-ride footage. So if you get to Lagoon and have a party of 3, you're in luck because that's the best way to ride. The ride has no theming once you're on, but it does have one of the more interesting cues, winding up and down a stone castle. Number 4. Colossus the Fire Dragon, a Schwarzkopf looper, opened in 1983. Another coaster that's portable, this one on the German fair circuit before landing at Lagoon. And this one seems to be more stable than Jetstar 2. You don't get the shifting and shaking, it feels solid and it's glossy smooth. I normally ride this in the back to get all that whip, but I had the chance to ride it in the front and I took it. They filter you into the station, so it's first come first serve on the row selection, so just keep that in mind if you want to try the front or the back. I also want to commend the ops. They only run one train, but they unload that train, load it with new riders, check their lap bar, and that train is back on the lift within 30 to 40 seconds. Classic Lagoon operations. Anyway, you climb 87 feet, max out at 49 miles an hour, hit back-to-back vertical loops, and unlike Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas, you don't gray out on these for whatever reason. After that, you boomerang around and back between the loops, entering the lower the ground twister section. This part is good, but I like the portable compact loopers that have some dips and drops at the end. The ones like Silver Bullet at Frontier City. Still, a super solid ride, different in the front and back, but good in both. So don't sleep on it if you're at Lagoon, it's one of their best. Number 3. Wicked, a Zero Tower coaster, opened in 2007. Zero only made 2 tower coasters, and one of them was this one, the only one that was launched. That launch makes the ride. It actually starts with one that's flat, and that leads to the vertical launch. That's one of the coolest feelings on any coaster. It's also awesome that you just have a lap bar. Some people say it comes down too hard, but I've never had a problem with it. And there's only 2 rows in the car, and I don't think it matters which one you're in. After the top hat, you go into an overbank in a zero-G roll. That's another crazy feeling, sitting on one of the edge seats, the track wrapping around you, and from there, the ride kinda dies. You have a mid-course, a drop that should have been way steeper, kinda like a dive coaster. So, missed opportunity there, and a couple bank turns that seem like filler. It's like Zero didn't know what else to do with it, but had to get it over 2,000 feet. So in the end, the ride could be way stronger, but for what it is, it's one of my favorite coasters at Lagoon. Also, this has assigned seating and a single rider line if you just want to hop on and ride. Number 2. Roller Coaster, a John A. Miller wooden coaster, opened in 1921. Since I last went to Lagoon, this celebrated its 100th birthday, and if you look in the station, they've posted a full history of the ride. It may be 103 now, but it did burn down and got mostly rebuilt in 1953, so it has the same layout even if a lot of it has been replaced. When I first rode it, it had your typical old school PTC trains, but the last 2 times, it's used the GCI Millennium Flyers, and that's a big upgrade. You go up 62 feet, hit a max speed of 45 miles an hour, and you have a double out and back layout covering 2,500 feet of track. When you sit in the back row, you get some real airtime. That airtime that flips you into your lap bar. The airtime that kinda hurts, but in a good way. When you think of a 103-year-old coaster, you might think it's rough. And I wouldn't call it smooth, but it's not that bad. It's not gonna give you a headache. It could make a headache worse if you already have one, but it's not something I would complain about, and doesn't hurt the ranking of this ride at all. I was impressed with it the last time out and bumped it up to number 2 in the park. Number 1. Cannibal, an art engineering mega coaster, opened in 2015. This is the coaster that made Lagoon a destination for enthusiasts. Before, it was a park with a couple interesting coasters, but mostly smaller portable rides. Cannibal is unlike anything else in the country, and really the world. Between the size, the quirks, the extreme elements, there's really nothing that compares. And you do all this in a 12-person 4x3 car with just a lap bar. So, like Wicked, you're in a short car. It doesn't really matter where you sit. You get the visuals in the front, and maybe slightly more whip in the back. You are assigned seats, which isn't a big deal, but the good thing is there is a single rider line, so take advantage if you want. You start with a horn sounding as a door opens. You turn into a tower with an elevator lift, taking you up 208 feet. The door at the top opening, and you get a nice view of Utah. And then you dive 116 degrees down. Such a weird feeling having that track wrap around under you, and you're left hanging by your legs. All you have is just a lap bar and no seatbelt holding you in. Then you go straight up into this vertical emmelman. You don't usually see this with a vertical entry and twisted vertical exit, but this is Cannibal. Everything is weird and awesome. Then you go into a more traditional dive loop, a double down with some decent airtime, into an overbank curve which is almost an inversion, and then you wrap around the tower into a mid-course, turning left into one of my all-time favorite inversions, the Lagoon roll. This hangs you upside down, and before you get back upright, it turns you upside down again. Just a brilliant display of hang time. Again, with nothing but your lap bar keeping you in. Another bizarre element that's executed so well, and it ends with a helix. Nothing special, aside from being partially enclosed in the rocks, but a good classic way to end an epic ride. If this whole screed wasn't evidence enough, Cannibal should absolutely be on your bucket list. And if you get yourself to Salt Lake City and this is the only coaster that's open, it's still worth it. There's nothing like it, and probably will never be anything else like it ever again. So there you go, all 11 coasters at Lagoon ranked up. Let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with anything here, and if you've been to the park, how you would rank these up. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and want to see more like this, please give me a sub. Also, check out my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you also happen to love baseball like I do. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.